In this video, I'm going to pick up where I left off in drawing this apple illustration, but I'm going to use a couple other tools to draw some other objects, and you can use these tools in conjunction with the pen tool and convert anchor point tool and the direct selection tool to make your illustrations complete. You'll notice that I have two layers at this point. Layers are just for organizing your work. I'm going to go ahead and make another layer. You can either make a new layer by clicking this little create new layer icon in the bottom right of the layers panel, or you can click the flyout menu and choose new layer right there. So I'm going to make this new layer and I'm going to call it the stem layer, stem trace layer maybe, and I'm going to use the pencil tool to draw the stem layer. Okay, so that's the stem. I'm just going to click OK after naming it, and well, the pencil part doesn't show up, but I know that's the stem. That's really all I need to know. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock. I might actually just turn off that layer so it's not visible anymore. So now I can just focus on the stem trace layer. Okay, I can always turn that layer back on, turn it off, turn it on very easily. So now I've got this stem. And I'm going to draw a leaf too, by the way. I'm going to do this by using the pencil tool. Now the pencil tool is, where is it? It's hidden. Okay. The pencil tool is grouped underneath, what's that? It's underneath the rectangle tool. It's underneath the type tool. It's actually grouped inside or underneath or with the shaper tool. So click and hold that tool. It's called the shaper tool, and you'll see the pencil tool. The shortcut key, if you can't find the pencil tool, just hit N on your keyboard. The shortcut key for the pencil tool is the N key. So hit N on your keyboard, you'll have the pencil come up. I'm going to go ahead and pop out this menu because I'm going to use the pencil tool and the smooth tool. Those two tools I use a lot. I hardly ever use the path eraser tool or the join tool or the shape. Well, the shaper, yeah, I don't use that either. But the pencil tool and smooth tool, I use those a lot, just so you know, just for your reference. Okay, so N is pencil. Hit N, that's your pencil. So I'm going to draw the stem. You can draw your entire apple with the pencil tool if you want, but notice how the pencil works. I am on the correct layer, right? So this layer's highlighted. Okay, the other layers are locked. So I'm going to draw the stem by clicking and dragging. Now I'm using a trackpad on a laptop, and as I do this, my finger is not super steady, but that's okay for the stem because the stem is not super smooth. Okay, it's kind of grainy. Now as you do this, be sure, like the pen, go all the way back to the beginning and you'll see that little circle really small as you draw it. Okay, now I drew it. It has a red stroke around it. It's a little thick. You can see that red stroke there. I'm going to hit the switch button. This swaps your fill and stroke if you click these little arrows. See that little arrow? See that switch? And that switches the stroke and fill colors. Okay, so what I'm going to do actually is go ahead and change that to a different color. You can click up here to the colors up here. If nothing shows up, and sometimes nothing shows up there actually, with that object selected, double click your fill and pick a color. I'm just going to pick a different color, maybe an orange or dark orange or brown. Okay, and there's my stem. Actually, that's not too bad. I thought it might be a little bit more involved with that, but that's not too bad because the stem isn't going to be super smooth, but you might want to smooth out your pencil. Now I just kind of selected my shape again by going to the black arrow, clicking on the shape. It's now selected. You see like a frame around it that lets me know it's selected. I'm going to go back to the pencil tool. Watch what else the pencil tool will do. Once you select an object, and the object does have to be selected for this to work, you can actually redraw your shape. See how I can redraw the shape? So if I don't want that shape looking exactly like I had it, I traced it okay, but I can actually go in here and redraw it. See those anchor points light up as well? So those anchor points, we already know how to adjust those, hopefully, or at least we saw that we can adjust those anchor points. But you see every time I draw, those anchor points change. Sometimes there's more anchor points, sometimes there's not as many. So I can actually adjust the stem or anything I've drawn, even if I drew this with the pen tool. If I go back real quick, if I go back to the apple and I go to the selection tool and I click on the apple. Now I drew this apple with the pen tool. I can go to the pencil tool. Actually, let me go ahead and switch the fill. I'm going to turn off the background, kind of get a feel for what the apple's going to look like. I can go to the pencil tool, select the apple, click on the pencil tool, there we go, and I can actually redraw the apple. Maybe I want it to be a little bit smaller down there. See how it moved? See how it changed? See how it changed? Now if you do this too much, you'll start getting tomatoes, and that's okay. It might just change the topic of the illustration. But you see you can redraw the apple very easily, clicking and dragging. My trackpad's really rough. Now at this point, when you get something like that, that's where the smooth tool comes in handy. So go to the smooth tool. If you get something like that, and anytime you draw with the pencil tool and you want it to be smooth, definitely use the smooth tool. Click and drag over it. Now you don't even have to be accurate. Click and drag over it. It's kind of like tracing over it, and you don't even have to do it much. You don't even have to be accurate. You don't have to be accurate at all. Just kind of click and drag over it. And if you do, again, if you do this too much, it gets too round. But this is an easy way to draw an apple. And I'm kind of going away from the illustration or the photo that I started with. Photos like that. So I've kind of deviated a bit from the illustration, but I can make my own illustration using that tool. The color's a little off in the stem. I might make it a little different. Okay, so it's getting there. But that's how you can draw with the pencil and the smooth tool. Now for the leaf, that leaf will be really easy to draw with the pencil tool. I'm just going to go ahead and make a new layer, and that layer I'm going to make in the layers panel, and I'm going to go ahead and name it the leaf layer. And I'll go ahead and click OK. By the way, you don't really want your color to be the same color as the object you're drawing. It's a little hard to see. So if I make this blue, a blue leaf, it will be hard to see the indicator lines. But it's not a big deal. You can always change that. Go ahead and draw a leaf. Let's see. Okay, that's a leaf. Alright, so I drew that. There's no fill and no stroke. So if you ever draw something and you don't see it, it disappears. There's no stroke and no fill. I knew I drew it. It's right there. That's why. Okay, no stroke, no fill. If that ever happens to you and you get lost, you can, just a little pointer, you can go to View Outline. If you go View Outline, you'll see an outline of your illustration that you drew. Go to View GPU Preview. It'll take you back to the preview. So if you ever get lost and you need to select your object, you can't find it, that's a good way to find it. Go back to View Preview. You'll see it again, and every now and then Illustrator has a mind of its own, it seems like, and it'll draw. I'm just going to grab that and do a green fill. It'll draw an object and throw it in there like that. Okay, so there's a leaf, sort of. I got to figure out where exactly to place it. Very, very simple illustration, just shapes. That's all we're doing here, shapes. Now that leaf, I can do a couple things with. I can redraw it. I can give it a little bit of a rougher leaf texture. I don't know. I'm not a botanist or a forest ranger, so I'm not sure what an apple leaf looks like exactly. I guess I could Google it. So that looks like a scary leaf. If you want to, and if you ever draw with the pencil tool and it does that, see how it's disconnected? Undo. Okay, undo, Command Z or Control Z. What that does actually is it made two pieces, and I don't really want that to be two pieces. I want that to be one piece. You see, it kind of, it's hard to correct. That's why I say undo. So I didn't undo, and I'm digging myself into a deeper hole. So now I finally got it back connected, because it'll just keep doing that. It's just a pain. I'm just speaking from experience here. It's just a pain. So there's my really rough leaf. I don't think I like that. But I can go over it with the smooth tool. I don't know. I don't see what happened. Now at this point, I really haven't dealt with. I'm just clicking and dragging, by the way. Click, drag, click, drag, click, drag, click, drag. I haven't really dealt with the settings of any of the tools. I'm using the default tools for everything I've done so far. That's going to take a while because that was really choppy. You can actually double click on the tool and you can actually change the tool settings, accurate versus smooth. So what I did is I just double clicked right on the tool itself, double click on the smooth tool, accurate versus smooth. You can actually double click on the pencil tool, you can change those settings. You can double click on the pen tool. Nope, it won't do anything. Double click, nope. So try it. Some of them do have settings, some of them do not have settings. So I'm just going to go back to the pencil tool, kind of redraw my leaf, smooth it out a little bit, and call it a day. Okay, so there's my leaf now. Now that is a pretty simple leaf. You can do 2 leaves. Now if anything you draw that's a different shape or different color, I recommend when you start out, make a new layer for it. I can do stuff on the same layer. It will work fine. It's just a little harder. I'm going to lock all the other layers. It's just a little harder to keep track of. I'm going to do another leaf up here. I'll go ahead and fill it in with the color. I might pick a slightly different green. Okay. Now I've got 2 leaves. And I can actually also go in here with the direct selection tool, and I can actually hold shift down and rescale it, or I can, kind of squish my illustration if that is something that I need to do. I can also rotate my leaf. So we have 2 leaves here. One's going forward, one's going back. Now I want that other leaf to go behind the stem. You can now, since I've done layers, I can drag the layers up and down. And you see now that second leaf is behind the stem. Now the first leaf is behind the stem. Gotta switch tools here. Oh, I locked my layers. Unlock my layers. Like it won't move. Okay, see down they're behind the stem. Okay. And if you drag the stem down, it goes behind. If you drag it up, it goes on top. So all I'm doing is dragging it up and down. Okay. So I'm going to want it on top. And apple, if I drag it to the top, you see it's on top. So layers are mainly for your organization. It helps out a lot when you need to reorganize stuff or move stuff, change layers, change levels. And the other neat thing is, once I've drawn some, maybe I don't want 2 leaves now. May I change my mind? I can click that on and off and actually just stick with 1 leaf. And it's still there. I might in the future decide I want 2 leaves. It's still there. I didn't delete it. It's still there. Okay, my Apple photo is still there, but I don't need to see it. So now if I were to print that, that's what would print. The apple with the 2 leaves, or 1 leaf. Excuse me, not 2. So that's just an overview of the pencil and the smooth tool.